Hi YouTube, my name is Ashima Singh and you are watching my channel Aesthetic Academic. I am a medical student that loves fashion and I also love pondering the philosophical quandary of aesthetics. So you've decided to sit the GAMSAT. My condolences. This beast of an exam ignites fear in the heart of every prospective medical student. I'd be lying if I said that this exam wasn't the single most torturous experience of my entire life. Never have I felt more worthless or stupid than when I was preparing for the GAMSAT. But the actual test itself, not that bad. Confused? What I'm trying to get at is that the fear of the unknown and the fear of failure is really the worst part of the GAMSAT. The test itself is like any other test in that if you prepare for it, you will succeed. There's no gene you need to get through that test. It's just some perseverance, practice, and a bit of strategy. Whether you're struggling to get started or you're not sure if you're on the right path, here are some budget-friendly tips on how you can nail it. Number one is to aim to do it once. It's a common strategy amongst students to do a GAMSAT practice run where they go in blind and just sit through the test, and then to do it another time where they've prepared and studied for it. I do not think this is a good idea for several reasons. Firstly, the test costs $500. So unless you enjoy the thrill of pissing away money, I don't see how this makes economical sense. Worse than that, I think it ruins the sanctity of the testing environment. Say for example, you're in a loving monogamous relationship and you cheat on your girlfriend. If there's no consequence for you cheating on your girlfriend, you've just increased the likelihood that you'll cheat again. It's just the way people are. So if you do GAMSAT practice runs, you might end up caring less about every subsequent attempt. So don't cheat on your girlfriend and try to get the GAMSAT done in one hit. Number two is blocking out 6 to 12 months of passive study and 3 to 4 months of active study. What I mean by passive study is reading to increase your speed and listening to a variety of different podcasts and watching news. And what I mean by active study is actually doing practice questions and practice essays. The passive stage is there to prime your brain for when you're actually going to be doing the hardcore studying. And the main focus is to actually increase your reading speed because that is a fundamental component of the GAMSAT. So I would recommend reading a novel a month, anything, Harry Potter, whatever you want to read, just something that's going to make you read quickly because if you're anything like me or anything like anyone I know, you love the idea of reading or used to love to read, but since the advent of the telephone and SMS, you do it way less. Alongside your reading in the passive studying phase, I recommend listening to a few podcasts about just different topics that interest you. If you don't listen to any podcasts at all, there's one that I love called Stuff You Should Know, which I'll link below. And that one's really fun and interesting and it'll get you started, but really anything, whether it's tech, whether it's politics, anything you like. So if you want to sit the March GAMSAT, this is what a sample timeline could look like for your studying. So you might want to start passive studying the March prior, and then in November is when you want to start your hardcore studying and like it's your full-time job. Obviously taking off Christmas and New Year's, but you know, it only has to be one summer if you want it to be. Number three is to buy any materials that you can afford. When I was studying for the GAMSAT, I went on Gumtree and I bought PDF versions of the Des O'Neill books, which at the time I heard were really good. But just get what you can find. I've linked an article in the description that someone made rating different resource materials. But I think if you just get a variety, maybe 3 or 4 different styles of books, on average, they should give you the range of questions that you need. But don't buy anything brand new. Save your wallet, save the planet. Number 4 is don't do any crash course style study days. There's a lot of companies out there that take advantage of the fact that students are scared of this test, and they organize these learn everything about the GAMSAT in one day courses. But if you're a good learner, you should know that that is BS. When have you ever been able to learn anything in one day? Like, that's just not possible. You're literally just throwing money away by attending these courses. There is no value to doing them. You're better off spending those full days, half the day doing some practice questions, writing an essay, and then spending the rest of the day like chilling out, and you'll get more value out of that. Number 5 is that you should jump straight into the questions. It's way too hard trying to look through, maths, bio, physics, chem books by yourself with no direction prior to studying. It just doesn't really make sense. So if you sit there with the practice questions and your textbooks or the internet, then you can smash out the questions, and when there's a concept that you actually don't know anything about, then you can go back and revise that way, but do it in that order. Number 6 is to become interested in politics, philosophy, and sociology. These 3 disciplines often come up in section 1 and 2. So to foster a love for them is going to put you in good stead, and it's going to make the studying process a lot more enjoyable. What made me fall in love with sociology, I had no idea what it was. It's the study of societies, but I remember the day I fell in love with it, I was watching this video, which I will link below, and it was discussing the movie Wall-E by Disney, and how it's a comment on the sociological position of Earth right now. And it was just so beautifully constructed, and then I was just thirsty for sociology after that, and I'm sure you will be too if you're an avid learner. So please check that out. And philosophy, I always found it very inaccessible because, there's a lot of jargon words that come with philosophy, and I never learned it at school or anything, so I felt very lost. But there is a YouTube channel called The School of Life, which is the best. They break everything down into such digestible chunks. They present to you some old concepts about Plato and Socrates, as well as Alain de Botton. He's the guy who runs the School of Life. He has his own, he's a philosopher, and then he sprinkles his own philosophies in there, and it's just beautiful. So if you can learn to love those 3 disciplines, you'll be on your way. Number 7 is to write an essay a day. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot. Why I say an essay a day is that life will get in the way, and you won't be able to write an essay a day. But if you at least have that goal of 7 a week, then you're going to minimum be writing 5, which is better than none. There is a GAMSAT quote generator, which I will link below. With essays, you just have to start writing. It sounds really intimidating at the start. I know I'm not a natural writer, so it was really hard for me. And the fear of just sitting in front of a blank piece of paper freaked me out. But I wrote 20 essays that were absolute trash, and then slowly after that they did start to improve. And what was interesting that I learned about writing essays is that you actually don't need anyone to correct them. If you speak English as your first language, then after you write some essays, you can identify yourself which ones are good and which ones are bad. So if you can find someone to help you correct them, that's great. But if you can't, or you can't afford it, don't worry about it. Just write, and I promise you'll be able to see when you're getting better. You can see it. You can tell when your writing's not good. Number 8 is to read everything on the GAMSAT website. I know several people who were studying for the GAMSAT and actually just forgot to sign up and then had to pay a late admin fee. So just you don't need to do that. Just go on the website, read everything that they have about the GAMSAT, the official guidelines, everything. I don't want to talk about that too much because if you're watching this in a couple of years, the information might have changed. So do that by yourself. Go to the website right now and then see what they've got. And they always have information booklets about what the test is like now and the timings for the questions. So make sure you read that for yourself. Number 9 is to subscribe to The Economist. The Economist is a newspaper that focuses on global news. I know, very small focus. And it is firstly an example of very clear and beautiful writing, so that you can sort of compare your writing to The Economist and be like, oh, okay, I don't actually have to make my writing overly complicated to make it sound very academic and to the point. And it also gives you a wealth of information about what is going on with the world, which is also really useful for section 2. So yeah, it'll help you improve your writing and give you an example of what good writing is. And it will also give you some ideas to incorporate into your own essays. And it is really affordable. If you haven't ever signed up before, you can get, there's an introductory offer, which is 12 issues. So they come out weekly, and it's only about $55 delivered. So you get a beautiful little newspaper. And yeah, I think it's the best. And I think it's a must if you're studying for the GAMSAT. Number 10 is about time management. What I did for time management was that I bought in a watch, an analog watch, which you can bring in. And then I set the hands to midnight. And so section 1 is 75 questions in 100 minutes. So that is about 20 minutes per 15 questions. And so what I did was, as soon as I could put my pen down, I marked out every 15 questions. So I put a line under 15, and then I put a line under 30, and I put a line under 45 until the end. And then I kept an eye on the watch, and I had to have finished every chunk up to the line every 20-minute increment. So that's how I kept track of how much time I had left, and it made sure that I didn't miss anything in section 1, because it's pretty important to finish every question in question 1, because 5 multiple choice marks can be the difference between like a 45 and a 75. So it's pretty vital. And that time includes writing into the circles. So every time I finished a 15 question chunk, I filled in the circles, and that all had to be within the 20 minutes that I had allocated for that portion. There's no time in section 1 to go back at the end. So you just have to make sure they're filled as they go, and just make a piece when you don't know something and just fill in the circle. Section 2, time management, is pretty self-explanatory. You have an hour to do 2 essays. So you want to be doing 1 essay every half an hour. It actually stressed me out too much to have allocations for, 10-minute planning, 20-minute writing or something like that. So for me, my best strategy was just to start writing immediately and making sure I was writing very slowly at the start so that my sentences still sounded really good. But my main fear was having nothing down on the paper. So by writing straight away, that helped me alleviate that fear. Section 3, I did something similar to section 1. In that I set the watch hands to 12 o'clock, and then at the start of the exam, I marked out, so every 20 questions I put a line, and that meant that I had 30 minutes to do that amount of questions and fill in the multiple choice sheet. But honestly, you skip so many, the average person skips many questions in section 3. So time management is, I suppose, less of a thing, because you're just going to look at a question and be like, I actually don't know how to do this, so I'm not even going to attempt it. And that's like, 5 multiple choice questions that you're just not even going to try to do. So you end up saving some time when you do it like that. There's some really brainy people that attempt every question, but I went into it knowing that I was going to skip at least 20 questions. And so then I had like plenty of time to work on the rest. So I didn't have to manage my time so much there. But having said that, I'm generally very quick in exams. At uni, I normally finish every exam in half the allocated time. So you might have to adjust those expectations based on your past performances. Number 11 is watch YouTube or listen to a really good podcast and then write it down verbatim. So this is another strategy to improve your writing. By writing down something that is a really good piece of writing and listening to it while you're writing it, it makes you stop and think about what is making that so powerful and why it's resonating with you. Obviously, don't do this for everything, just only those really special pieces that you are rocked by. My favorite one to get you started, I will link in the description below. But it was a podcast episode of a lady, I can't remember her name, but she taught at Columbia University. She taught the subject narrative medicine. So basically, she was just a literary god who wrote this podcast about her program, which was teaching medical students empathy by using novels and how they can incorporate that into their practice. And then the way she wrote was just, I've never heard, I had chills listening to her speak, because her writing was just so elegant and the metaphors she used just really resonated with me. So I wrote out her podcast series, which is like 30 pages or something, but it helped me think about how to construct a powerful metaphor and how to flow in a piece. So I found that really useful. And I also did the same thing for some of the School of Life School of Life episodes on YouTube. If there was any that were particularly good. There was one that I really liked about the concept of melancholy, which I'll link below to get you started. But yeah, I just wrote down anything that I thought was really pretty. Number 12 is to brush up on your maths. The thing with maths is that you forget it so quickly. So while I was super good at maths in high school, not super good, but pretty good at maths in high school, I had basically forgotten everything by the time it came to the GAMSAT. And it is really important to brush up on those skills, because it is really a lot of maths. There is a YouTube channel I watch called leahforside.com. That's her website, and she has a YouTube channel. And she's really good, and she teaches the MCAT in America. So she does a lot of manual calculations about logs and significant figures and stuff that I hadn't practiced in a long time. So that was really useful. There is an actual study that you should read. It's a 10-year retrospective study about the GAMSAT as a test and its usefulness. And in this study, they found that students who studied physical sciences like physics and for their undergraduate did better at the GAMSAT more than anything else, more than like any of the biological sciences or anything. And that's most likely because they are just really good at maths and they're in the practice of doing maths, and that's a big component of the test. So I recommend spending some time every day just like doing maths problems by hand, like you're in high school, because yeah, you need that practice. Number 13 is that you have to remember that it is a marathon. What I mean by that is that how you eat and how you sleep and how you exercise is going to play a big part in how you're feeling on the day. So, take the time to make those healthy dishes and to get 8 hours sleep every night, even though it feels like you can't do it. Prioritizing those things is going to increase your performance a lot. So definitely make that a priority as well as studying. Don't neglect any of those things because they're just as important as the grunt work. Number 14 is make a hype playlist. This is to listen to whenever you're feeling down or disappointed in yourself and you need to pep yourself back up. Some of my favorites are Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield and of course everyone's favorite Lose Yourself by Eminem. And I also recommend that on the exam day, in your lunch break, not talking to anyone because you could probably feed off their nervous energy, and just listen to some music that's going to make you feel energized and make you feel like you're going to conquer the world. Number 15, which I probably should have put way further higher in the list, is to not work out percentages when you do practice papers. So yes, while I do recommend you correct your papers and look at why the answer is wrong, working out a percentage is actually not going to do you any favors, because firstly, that number is not going to mean anything to you. Most likely you're going to be getting anywhere between 40% or 30% and 70%. And that's just going to make you feel like shit. Like, you're not going to feel good getting those marks because, if you're thinking about getting into a career like medicine, you're probably used to getting like 80s, 90%. So it's just going to make you beat yourself up because the GAMSAT is not calculated in a normal way. It's the curve is different and you just can't extrapolate that from a percentage mark on a random test that's not standardized. So what's the point of putting yourself through that trauma of feeling like you're inadequate or feeling like you're stupid or feel like you're getting everything wrong for no benefit? As well as that, the number of MCQs that can take your score from average to exceptional is very few. So I don't see why you should be psyching yourself out by working out the percentages and then feeling like you're not going to get a very good score while it's still very in your realm of possibility to be able to do that. Lucky last for number 16 is to plan your relaxation and sleep for the night before. I, like many people, have trouble getting to sleep when I'm feeling nervous about something. So I needed to 100% avoid that happening. So the day before the GAMSAT, I made sure I got up at 4 a.m., a ridiculously early hour, so that I would be very fatigued by the nighttime. So what I did was I got up at 4 and I went to the gym, and then I had a relaxing day. I went to the hot springs with my boyfriend and we got massages and we just chilled for the whole day, and I just tried to not think about the GAMSAT at all, and it put me in a really nice and relaxed state of mind. And then I was in bed by 7 to account for 2 hours of tossing and turning, which I think I fell asleep before that, but I just wanted to make sure that I was covering every box. Because you don't want to spend like 6-12 months preparing for something and then be let down because you can't get to sleep. So that's why I think this is overlooked and very key. So make sure if you're like me and you have trouble getting to sleep, then you have to get up really early the day before to ensure that you can fall asleep that night. Another benefit of going to sleep on time is that you will be able to wake up with enough time in the morning to have a workout, and that'll make sure that you will keep that brain fog away and you'll be your best self and very alert. So yeah, I worked out the morning of the GAMSAT, even though I'm not normally a morning worker-outer, and I think that made a big difference. That concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed these tips. I tried to be as comprehensive as possible and hopefully you're not feeling as afraid anymore. If you have any more questions about the GAMSAT, I'm so happy to answer them, so just leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and if you'd like to see more from me, please like and subscribe. That would be really helpful to me and very kind of you to do. And thank you so much for watching.